to the first video of many to be in a whole different multitude of different things between adventure, off-road modifications, and or just overall exploring, overlanding, and then there are just general daily lives that we have here. But I'd like to kind of curtail it off and focus on the 4runner as a walk-around build here, and basically starting off with the front and back and just kind of giving you the details of what I have done to it, and later then describing why I've done what I've done to it. Everything is purpose-built. It's got a lot of money on it, it's got a lot of time on it, and you know, a lot of people don't really want to focus all that on an older vehicle, but I'll explain why it's worth it, and kind of like the point to the channel is our adventures surrounding the vehicle and our lives here living in the Southwest and living in Sedona here in this beautiful landscape. People travel from all around the world to come here and visit here and learn a little bit about all the little weird things about this town, and we're just so blessed to live here and work here. And I do own a small little tour business here, so there'll be more extenuations of those adventures as well, kind of embedded into this channel here. Let's start off with the 4runner here. Basically, not too many places to go on paved roads around here. Once you get anything really, even a Subaru, any vehicle that's decent when it comes to like at least coming down some slick rock paths here, all-wheel drive, decent ground clearance, it opens your horizons, being able to explore in so many more places. So I went with the 4runner just because it wasn't really needing a truck, and you know, I love Toyotas, and you know, they were just basically so well known, and I just got lucky with the 3rd gen. Honestly, I wasn't really certain. I knew I wanted something newer. I just got lucky with it. So I bought this here with a few things already on it, and I'll mention what was already on it, and then I'll mention everything I put on it. But basically everything else that was done to this has been replaced except for some of the like permanent things. So anyway, starting from the front end here, so from top down, have a Savage front bumper. This company's been discontinued for a few years. They were based out of Southern California, and they made full underbelly skid plates and gas tank skids, and of course front bumpers, and I believe they made rear bumpers. I'm not certain on that. Lucky to have this here. I kind of look at it as like a collector's item now. They are of course discontinued, so I haven't been able to find at least any other skid plate stuff from Savage. If I do, I'll definitely be buying it just because I'd really like to have that matching discontinued company here. It's bulky, it's weird, but it holds all the lights that I have now and what I plan to put on it. And I have a Smitty built XR3 Gen 3 winch that's not installed yet, obviously, but that'll just be part of one of the videos that I add to this here. A few more mods to add. Even though there's a lot done, there's still a lot more that I'd like to do. Headlights down. This is SRQ Fabs that went ahead and I had them build this for me. It was a long wait for this just because of the overload from like BX built shutting down. So I decided to get the whole thing, the turbine shrouds, the RBG color change, and then of course the halo that you see here, which has the switchback, turns to orange when you put the blinkers on. I'll put a video of that. They look pretty awesome. And then I got like the Tech Customs little corner lenses here. They are getting dirty on the inside, so this is just how they look clean right now. It's very annoying. These were kind of garbage, and they discontinued them for a reason, but it was a nice place to put the blinker and a parking light too. But honestly, it's just better to just modify your own corner lens. So I have another pair at the house that I'm going to do that with, honestly. Amazon light bar, nothing really quite special here. This is like 10,000 lumen, $300 light bar here. Very cheap, and it's just been doing a good job for the time being here. Down on the bottom, there are Morimoto pod lights, the two-banger, SAE lens, obviously in amber there. They are amazingly bright. They're basically as bright as any other set of headlights out of these little pods here, but because of that super fine cutoff, it doesn't really go too far into the night unless you aim them up, and then they're starting to blind people. But there is an amazing coverage of light down low. That's great, especially for terrain like this, where there's a lot of like hidden dips in the ground, and you want to have all those extra shadows to kind of show the terrain and stuff like that, and what's deformed around you, so you don't end up in like a deep pothole or something like that if it's dark out. But honestly, most of the attention for the build here the entire time has been in just handling and usability and then reliability, especially on that. When I bought the truck here, it had like Icon Dynamics front suspension, and it had like a really old set of Radflow shocks in the back. They were still good, but they were just really old and outdated. Springs out of a vehicle that wasn't Toyota or Lexus. I don't even know what springs they were from, but they were super stiff and short, and they bite up, and it was annoying. Everything has been replaced slowly over time as I'm just kind of getting fed up or finding the failure points of whatnot. The Stage 2 yeah, stage 2 suspension kit from Icon Vehicle Dynamics. It's just a glorified lift kit, spring lift kit. This suspension is really nothing special out of it, honestly. Maybe for some of the other trucks like the newer Tacomas, they focus maybe better valving on those, but it was rough. Even with the rebuild, they never handled well. So I decided to just go all out and get the BTF long travel fabrication kit. If you look down here, it's definitely you know, a lot going on compared to a normal 4runner. And even when it comes to suspension alone, I still went ahead and went above and beyond, just because I do like to drive it hard, as well as I want it to be super reliable too. So the BTF long travel kit here is a bolt-on kit that basically adds an extra 4.5 inches each side for your overall track width, and then it adds an overall 15 inches of travel. I have it dialed to 14 inches right now with the bump stop and with the limiter straps here. But then again, it's just, you know, trying to keep it as more of a daily as I can. I'm already limiting when it comes to like steering components and ball joints are already getting to the limit. So I'm already looking at some aftermarket options for lower ball joints like Solo Motorsports and Anonymous Fabrication, which hopefully like get a set of those and put an install on that and do a review video on that as well. For their Anonymous Fabrications lower ball joints, the Solo Motorsports are like thousands of dollars for them. So maybe try something else in the meantime. But with the kit here, basically, there's a lot of extra other things that are kind of hidden in there that, you know, you just can't see right off the bat. Everybody kind of goes with the locked off-road gas charged bump stops and rad flow shocks because it's sold through Opt Off-Road, and they are amazing products, and it's just kind of like, you know, peanut butter and jelly. It all kind of go together, and they, you know, they package well and all that. And you can just buy it all straight from Jason at Opt Off-Road, which is what I did. And it's just all one great easy kit, and at least the packages you can buy. But that said, underneath here, if you go ahead and look again, I do have a Solo Motorsports double shear kit. It's kind of hidden here with this mud flap guard here. This was because I was getting a little worried on cracking. Then I was starting to notice around the shock tower here on the top of the bucket where, you know, you got the upper control arms that mount into it. So I do have the Imkeith upper strut tower reinforcement here, and then as well as the double shear kit. So just trying to keep it as strong as possible before going to something crazy in aftermarket like a front end tube chassis or something like that. And there are clicker shocks on the reservoirs as well, keeping it nice and adjustable. If you look down again under here as well, there's a couple more things. You do have the heavy friction work gusseted spindles here. If you go down underneath the tire here, you can see that also I got the bigger Tundra brakes as well. They are the smaller version. I think it's like a WL and like another initial for it, but they are the smaller version of it. So they need the minimum of a 16-inch versus a 17-inch wheel, but they still have this thing stop on a dime. And honestly, the ABS interferes more than what the brakes can actually handle. We got the 333 or 333 Fabrications square cam tab mounts, and it's awesome. The steering wheel is straight. The truck drives straight as an arrow, and since they've been installed for like 2 years now, that's how long I've had the front end build on it, nothing's really changed. I have had the cam tab mounts bend on me, and over here they have on the passenger side on the front and the rear mount. So just other than that though, they were gusseted in the past, the stayed on there. The other is one of the other things I forgot to mention is the extended stainless steel brake lines from BTF. As well as the ARB front locker, which I have not gotten to use yet, so I'm looking forward to some videos, especially snow wheeling and the rainy, muddy season, which finally is now coming to us in Arizona here, where I can finally use this front locker here. And as well as extended front wheel studs, just because the specific wheels that I have and the large side lugs that I have on the Yokohama Geolanders, there was a little bit of rubbing on the upper control arm at full lock. So I was to put on a 1/2-inch wheel spacer to keep that rubbing from going on. And so yeah, they clear the tires perfectly. Why are they rubbing? It's just a personal thing. I just didn't want to, or also have the funds to get all new wheels with proper back spacing. I didn't want to space them out any farther. I had 1-inch wheel spacers on it, and when you add 9-inch of overall track width, it's just kind of too much. Especially when it comes fitting in the garage and stuff like that. Luckily, the 4runner is still an overall small enough vehicle where, like a Raptor or something like that, it could fit in places like a Raptor couldn't fit. But also, it's just a bit extra. So, and I didn't really need that. I didn't want to have that extra strain and stress on the vehicle anyway. So, using just the 1/2-inch spacers for now, and I needed that extra I need the longer wheel studs because nobody makes a 1/2 inch spacer with built-in wheel studs on it anyways. The big pro to the BTF fabrication long travel kit that I did not mention is that it moves your overall distance between your front and rear wheels 1 inch further forward. So you get an overall 1 inch longer wheelbase. And basically that just makes the hand a little bit better. It might be honestly unnoticeable going from stock suspension especially to this, but maybe it'd be better comparable from other long travel kits. But what it does is it moves it forward so you can fit 35s. I have 315 by 75s, but you can fit up to 35s without chopping out your or tubbing out your fender well or anything like that. And then if you want to go with 37s, it's just a minor tubbing versus having to do a lot more work. A lot of guys have 37s with this kit. And I believe that pretty much covers the overall front end. Springs are 650 pound. That's the last thing there is to it. That was predetermined from Ravlo. I just told them vehicle weights and they gave me those springs. They're a little too stiff for when it comes to full articulation and rock crawling, like full compression. I do have a good amount of droop, but it just can't completely compress through the bump stop with this heavy spring. Now I don't have a winch on yet, and granted, you know, I don't drive around a full weight all the time, and I gave them my full weight number, so I might be dropping the spring rate on this and just running a higher compression to kind of make up for the added weight of the winch, but allowing it to actually articulate. Maybe in the future go with an extra front end shock or something like that, like another Radflow double tube front shock, just to kind of keep up with that compression at high speed stuff, and also have soft enough springs to actually articulate. It's probably the solution for the future, and it's just a lot more money spent and a lot more future stuff, so more future builds as well. So that pretty much covers the front end here. All right. Okay, going over little details that you just kind of see on the side walking around. We got the corner pods. I have 2 different pod lights doing 2 different things here. I got a little picky about just having blind spots. So the white ones here are the SAE lens, and this is the Diode Dynamics SS3 Pros. They do now have the Max, but I'm very happy with the Pros and the SAE lens here with the white pattern, or the white color has just been phenomenal for filling in the dark spot in the ditch in the corner over here. You know, the front end lights that I have don't currently have like one of those like side kickoff lights like some of the Baja design lights have. That doesn't matter because this goes for basically, you know, maybe 100 meters or 100 yards or so off into the distance in the darks, really fill in all the darkness in the corners. So it's actually great for like huge flat areas to see any wild animals like way in the distance. Corner lights here, or these are actually like more of my true ditch lights, point down the ditch for doing sharp turns while in more, you know, steep terrain, especially in mountainous terrain, or even just really dark neighborhoods. Towns like Sedona are dark sky communities, so there's a bunch of city ordinances to prevent lighting. So you can still see the sky and the stars really well, but it makes like turning around your driveway just pitch black in the night. So these actually get used quite often just to back out of the driveway. These are also Diode Dynamics SSC2. These are their Pros, and obviously an amber here, but the combo lens. I had the flood lens, but their small 2 LED pod with flood, the light output is just so little it could barely make its way another 10-15 feet off out of the vehicle, and so I wanted to actually see some distance, you know, and a little bit further down the road, especially while cornering here. So I got the Pro version of both these up there. Had just normal amber sport SS3 pods here in combo, and they did great for a long time, but also just kind of was looking for a little bit more light output and a little bit more specifics, and it's nice having amber or white depending on the actual lighting or, you know, the weather and terrain and stuff like that. Down the side here you can see got a rooftop tent and a rack here. There's a lot of these different extruded aluminum racks now, and this is the Sherpa rack. They are awesome, and in my opinion the toughest, best racks you can buy in the market. The 3rd gen 4runner I believe holds, I think it's 200 pounds dynamic for weight up top. It could be 250. I'm thinking it's actually 250. I should have looked into it, but besides that, their 4th and 5th gen 4runners can hold 300 pound dynamics. So that's a lot of weight up here, banging around, jumping, having a good time. So this is the Sherpa Matterhorn rack, and this was just, you know, kind of a mandatory thing to buy if you're going to put any heavy rooftop tent on, and then also still off-road hard, because it's going to just rip things out. I've heard a lot of people with the Prinsu roof racks, they rip out. You know, rooftop tent is the Free Spirit Recreation Odyssey 49-inch, or yeah, I believe it's 49-inch roof hard shell rooftop tent. It opens up almost 90. It's like a 80-degree opening. And I love it because you can have things mounted on the side and the top and leave things in either your roof basket or your cargo container, or your bikes or your kayaks. You can leave them mounted to the rooftop rack bars, which I don't have currently mounted on top of the tent, and open your tent, and the hydraulics have enough weight to not only open it, but then there's a locking bar to keep it locked out. So you can keep all your cargo, all your gear inside of it, instead of having a tent that pops straight up, which is, hard to do whenever you got 150 pounds of cargo on the top of it, which is their style of like their premium hard shell tent, just pops straight up. It's a better tent overall, but you just can't do the certain things that I specifically wanted, like having an awning accessible and the ability to mount things on the side and the top, and have me be able to still open it with everything still mounted on it. And this was, in my opinion, as far as I can tell so far, honestly, this is the only tent in the market that allows you to do that. So I have these big brackets here, which are custom brackets. I had to buy the Free Spirit Recreation bracket and then cut and weld on the Overland Vehicle Supply bracket, which is a universal one. But I have a 180 awning, and I'll put some pictures and videos of that as well, and it's awesome. It goes all the way around. It's almost the same square footage. It's basically the same, actually, as the 270. The 270s just, takes a little bit of the surface area, moves it to the rear end, but you can't open a hatch on the 3rd Gen 4Runners with the 270. I see a lot of people with them, and they got their hatch barely open, and they're like crawling underneath to get their stuff out, and like, if you're overlanding, like, you kind of live out of the hatch. We have everything set up in the back out of that just for that reason. So one with the 180 option from OVS. They, I think, are one of the two only companies that make 180 now. I think Free Spirit Rec actually makes a 180 awning as well. It's a little lighter, it's way more expensive, but I like the one I got. It's just not mounted because we're just not using it right now. It's super hot summertime and it rains every other day, so we're just kind of hanging out at home right now. So, but then again, that's 50 pounds. That mounts right on the side. Barely even notice it up there. Light bars here, these are just combo LED bars. They're probably 250 lumens each, from Amazon years ago. They do pretty good for just kind of just illuminating the side of the vehicle. A little too spotty, so these will get replaced as well. Just more detailed videos for that. Sliders on the side are a brand I'm familiar with, but they are just the general shape that I've seen from every generic rock slider. They were one of the few things in the vehicle when I bought it, front bumper being one, and the sliders here, and the wheels actually. Tires and wheels are Pro Comp 29 series La Paz wheels. They're cheap, easy to replace, and I've never broken a bead on them, and I'm at 10 psi all the time. And that's going fast, taking corners fast, so not saying that they're actually meant for that, but they're pretty decent wheels, honestly. They've taken a lot of scratches and stuff like that. No cracks yet. It's pretty great. And they've probably been on the vehicle for years because they were on before I bought it here. These tires I've had now for a couple years, the Yokohama Geolander MT. They are in 315 by 75 by 16, and they're great in the snow. They've been pretty decent for rocks. There's better out there. They are the cheapest tire for this size for a 16, so that's kind of why I went with it, honestly. And it's really hard to find 315s or 35-ish size tires that also fit a 16. So again, just didn't have the money to buy new tires and wheels, so I just went with the tires that fit and were most affordable, and was kind of trying them out. The sidewalls on these are pretty great, so when you air down, you do actually get a usable bit more of traction than certain other MT tires. And they are really stiff sidewalls too, so you can air down a lot without losing too much ground clearance. It's probably the reason why I do find myself comfortable at 10 psi often with these, just because they don't squat very much. Yeah, the tires overall, they get decent traction, but when it comes to long-term longevity on these, road tripping included, they're starting to crack in a lot of different spots. And if you don't air down, even if your rig is fine, and can handle it, if you don't air down and you just try to do some really rough, sharp rock stuff, maybe not slick rock, but sharp rock stuff with these tires, it will just rip lugs off. I got my tire warranty through Discount Tires, so I'm just waiting for more lugs to rip off because I probably still have another 1.5 years of these tires. But they overall wear really well. It's just like an issue with cracking and dry rotting within the tread, as well as ripping lugs off. So anyways, maybe it's just an area issue that I have around here. And that pretty much covers the side of it here. The rooftop tent opens up from the passenger side, and I'll have videos as well and pictures of like our awning mounted to that, and it really just does create this awesome enclosed environment. The awning we have for this side does have drop down walls, but it doesn't really seal you in that well. It's not a completely boxed room. We'll just move on to the whole rear end section of the vehicle, including suspension and just mods that are just off on the back here. But just kind of looking at the side here, you can see the suspension sticking up above the tire. The 3rd Gen 4Runner had some pretty poor rear suspension geometry, And putting bigger aftermarket shocks in is hard unless you get the outside shock relocation or OSR kit. A few companies make these. This one is from Feel Good Performance. Basically, I have currently a 12-inch Radflow double tube shock mounted in there. And it really just stabilizes everything. It allows it allows the rear axle to just have a little bit more of a level up-down, high-speed whoop kind of experience while it's in like the dunes and stuff like that. It's not really going to make rock crawling any better. And to be honest, certain moments with certain tire sizes, I don't have the right back spacing right now because I don't have the right wheels. It still rubs a little bit. I do need to push it out a little bit more. I just need different wheels with different back spacing at the moment for myself. So it's not a solution to just overall better suspension. It's a solution to high speed terrain stuff that you would experience in the Southwest or in the dunes, or just high speed trail running, or maybe you just want a really nice stable vehicle. Keep the shocks rather simple and cheap and universal, but just having a more stable vehicle. That's when you would want to put that outboard shock in there. And I wanted to do it because it's just so much easier to just maintenance the shock, have it there, as well as make the adjustments from if you go ahead and look down in here again, I got the Radflow double tube set up, so I can go ahead and adjust my compression as well as rebound. The rebound's right on the top, which is so easy, but I don't use it very often because it's usually being adjusted for the different weight that I'm adding into it rather than high-speed adjustments where I need more rebound and basically a faster track back down for the rear axle. But compressions is right underneath, just with a quick wrench. I can change front and rear tire pressure and suspension settings within basically 5 to 10 minutes. It's pretty great. So different weights from different distant camping trips, or different details to it, or maybe we're just going to go just do purely off-roading and don't need all that extra weight in there. And so basically the other extra things that I've added to it that actually helps quite a bit with handling is the OCD or Overland custom designed rear sway bar end links. Just keeps them a little bit stiffer. They don't flex out as much. They got Heim joints on the bottom of it, so when they do flex out a little bit, basically they just have that maneuverability. And then also I have the complete control arm set up from Opt Off-Road, which uses Johnny joints and like these much thicker control arms on the top and the bottom. And it just makes the rear axle so much straighter, so much more centered. Not only highway stuff, but also off-roading, especially high-speed off-roading stuff. And I cannot wait to get their long arm kit, their 3-link long arm kit. That's kind of like a combo between Opt Off-Road and Feel Good Performance. Basically for me, luckily, since I already have all the joints and stuff like that, I'll just be buying longer bars and then of course the weld up brackets for it all, and hopefully learn welding as well as a process of all this, because I've had all this welding done for me by good friends, but unfortunately a couple of them have left the state here, so now I'm trying to learn this on my own as well. So it'll be a fun thing to do, just kind of as I'm building the channel, as well as just building this for myself, whether it was being filmed or not. But basically, that's kind of like where you can see from here, kind of walking around to the rear end here. And if you go ahead and squat down with me, Rose, and look underneath here, the panhard correction is a little different. It's got a completely custom mount, and I've never seen this in a kit anywhere, so I do believe it's custom. That was one of the other 5 things that was on here when I bought this. It was like this, and you can see the driver's side connection point for the panhard bar there goes all the way over to almost to the rear brake drum versus it landing next to the spring. And I'm not sure if that changes my handling at all or not, honestly. I do rub a little bit just on this side at full articulation with different back spacing. That'll go away, but anyways, it is a weird overall panhard correction bar, and I just wanted to point it out just in case anyone could look at it and be like, oh yeah, that is definitely going to influence your handling. Maybe I get it changed up, or maybe it's fine. Overall, I have no complaints, and high-speed driving and articulation's fine without any binding or anything like that. It doesn't even rub on the gas tank, actually, and that's without it even being trimmed. It was bent in a little bit on the gas tank skid from the driveline, but it doesn't really rub at this point. And I do have locked off-road the gas nitro charged bump stops in the rear end too, so when things are articulating, it keeps it nice and leveled. I used to have the 2.5-inch or like 5.5-inch Duro bump rear bump stops, and those were great when it was just like stock travel, but I left those on, trying to just kind of save some money, having the extra welding and buying the bump stops and whatnot. And the rubber bump stops from Duro bumps actually like ripped to pieces, honestly. I was really surprised by it. The other things that I haven't mentioned is the gearing, front and rear 529 gears, and front and rear ARB lockers. So All new bearings replaced basically within the last year. And when it comes to the rear wheel spacers, I have 2.5-inch wheel spacers from Titan Motorsports. That's, again, just to kind of keep that clearance going on, because my wheels just don't have the right amount of back spacing. So the other things as well under here, when it comes to just the overall ability to carry weight and articulate, is the OME 891 springs. When you're carrying an extra 1,500 pounds of gear and you want a good 2-inch lift and decent articulation, go with these springs. The Land Cruiser springs are great without the 8 wraps. They're great without a bunch of weight added to it. But these springs have been great. Been happy with them. If I ever kind of take out the camping gear and turn this mostly into like a pre-runner, these springs will definitely be changed out, because they are quite stiff here, honestly. You know, the thing is about the wheel spacers, even though they're 2.5-inch, and a lot of people would look at that and be like, no go, you know, even for just driving around town. I've been doing off-roading with them for over the last 2 years now, and that includes just like small jumps, you know, nothing over like 3 feet, but like hard, you know, like hard compression, like hard G outs, as well as just having a lot of weight and doing a lot of cornering, and they're great. It's pretty cool. Just, you know, whenever you are getting spacers, making sure you're using grade 8 bolts and you should be good, you know, and make sure they're Loctited, and that's it. But I do want to get, again, different wheels, just so that way I don't have to deal with these huge spacers in the back, as well as actually getting the proper clearance for the front and the back, and not having wheel spacers in general. The other things that are kind of a little more miscellaneous all around, 1-inch body lift. And the thing is, why I wanted to mention that on the rear end here is because I want to incorporate these body mounts here. If you come on over here, Rose, this is obviously just the body mount portion. The actual, like, you know, polyurethane cup is above this, but this is a heavy duty bushing here from Sonoran Fabrications, Sonoran Steel Fabrications. They're based in like the Phoenix area, and whenever I put this spare tire alone was causing a lot of banging and rattling, and this was right around the same time I was getting the front long travel put on, so I wanted to go faster. And then when the rear suspension was replaced, even though it's still mid travel, this thing goes fast enough now where this can bang quite a bit. Anybody that has one of the higher angled in spare tires here will realize it can vibrate quite a bit. It's great for ground clearance though. So that said, those heavy duty body mounts have been phenomenal for just keeping very minimal movement. And there's a lot involved with swinging this thing around, not literally opening it, but actually like off-roading with it. And so anyhow, those have been a lifesaver. There have been other cracks that have fractured all around here, but when it comes to the body and the bumper, everything's been super stable with it, which has been really cool. The swing out here is from True North Fabrications, and this is welded onto basically a what I perceive as a custom bumper. I haven't seen a bumper like this anywhere else. I haven't looked for everywhere and forever, but I haven't been able to see or find another one. But this swing out here is from True North Fabrications. You might recognize the mountain logo plate here. My buddy Brock, which has moved to Wyoming now, he did all my welding. He found a way to get this to weld on here and have it clear everything. It does cover the entire tail light here. So I got a little like license plate mount with like a secondary tail light basically on the back, so it's all legal and all that. But it's nice to just quickly take this off without having it being trapped or a bunch of stuff mounted to it. And then just save even more weight while doing off-roading. Or I can just take this singular big bolt out and just pull the entire swing off, and then just, you know, just have all that weight relieved after that. And when it comes to the interior and the box and everything, I'll do a separate video on that. There's just a lot of little details too when it comes to camping and all that. Taillights are just like Amazon brand. There's a bunch of different companies that make this style of LED light here. But when it comes to the blinkers and the reverse lights, I'm using Morimoto bulbs. The blinker lights are incredibly bright. I actually kind of feel bad for people at night. They're really, really bright. Reverse lights are pretty decent. It does get blocked by the swing out, but you know, it does get made up for with this actual little tiny reverse light for the license plate bracket here. This is going to get relocated just down here so I can just pull off the tire that much easier if I need to. Pods on the rear bumper there are Dow Dynamics SS3 Sport Pods with the spot beam in amber, and their spot beam even using it for a dust light, not a chase light, but just actually seeing through the night behind me in, you know, deep dust and really thick dust. They've been pretty phenomenal. So the sport and spot mode and amber does a pretty good job at cutting through the night to kind of save money where you need it, you know. You're not always looking at the rear mirror anyway, so I didn't really think I'd want a super bright light at the rear end. Do want to add corner lights, and that's where it will make up for it, so I can see in my mirrors. When it comes to my rear view mirror, you don't get much of a view usually, and you're not really looking out in the distance behind you. Is usually what's immediately right behind you, right? I think that pretty much covers it when it comes to the rear end of the vehicle and all the other more greater suspension mod. Alright, well that wraps up the intro of the vehicle and the walk around. I really do hope to be adding quite a bit more things to the vehicle and just making small little daily videos, or just, you know, intermittent videos as I add modifications and just keep up with adventures. You know, if there's any other details or anything like that that you'd like me to go into that I browsed over or something like that, just feel free to leave a comment and let me know, or just send me a message. I'd be happy to answer any questions. But thank you so much.